Good evening, Missouri. First of all, before I even begin the presentation, I want to congratulate the Missouri School Boards Association and all of the Missouri School Board members. And here's why. After the legislative session that all of you have had and the proposals that you have been able to beat back, you have not only secured a win for public education in Missouri, but you have secured a win for public education for the 50.4 million public education students across America. Congratulations. And the reason I say that is I know that we're all waiting for this magic proposal that's coming from Secretary DeVos. But I'm not so sure that the things that are going to dramatically impact in an adverse nature of public education are going to come from some magic bullet from the Secretary of Education. My bigger concern is that we lose ground state by state. And you in Missouri have made sure that that doesn't happen. You've made sure it doesn't happen through contacting your elected representatives. You've made sure it doesn't happen by engaging your communities. And one of the best practices I think you have here in Missouri, one that we can take to the other states, is that you've made sure it doesn't happen by getting school board members elected to your state legislature and in leadership positions. That is a best practice that all states should be encouraged to adopt. Now, what I want to talk to you about today are, first of all, I do want to offer some motivation to you and some ideas about how you can take your local school board seat and your local school board to higher levels than you perhaps considered. And I want to talk about the dramatic impact that school boards can have beyond their local communities. I also want to share with you the role of the National School Boards Association and give you a brief update on some of the federal proposals and some of the different programs and services that are available through NSBA, through your state school board association. So some of you may recognize this particular slide. This is from our flagship publication, The Key Work of School Boards. So for any of you who are new school board members, this particular diagram talks about the 5 key components that are important for driving student achievement. These are the elements which, if executed well by a Board of Education, will have a significant impact on student achievement in your district. So we'll go through each one of them briefly, and then I'm going to scaffold them up beyond basic boardsmanship and talk about how these elements can translate into a vision for our students. So the first one is vision. School boards adopt and create an effective vision for their school districts. They're able to see the future, see what their school districts and their children and their communities aspire them to be, and they're able to not only create it and make it part of a policy manual or make it a statement that hangs on a wall, but they're able to make sure it's articulated throughout the district so that that vision is known by not only the board and the superintendent, but by also any random teacher or support professional in the district. Accountability. School boards are accountable. They're accountable to the taxpayers in their community, they're accountable to the students that they serve, and they're accountable to parents in the community and accountable for ensuring that the values of the community are reflected in their public schools. Now, unfortunately, the accountability piece seems to always focus right now on only standardized testing. But we're going to talk a little later about how accountability translates to more than just standardized test scores and how what we do as school board members is a lot more important than simply standardized tests and performance. One of the major weapons that we have in our arsenals as school board members is policy. Not only rules and regulations that our students have to follow, and I love the essay that the student wrote in Missouri who we presented an award and a scholarship to, who talked about the fact that it's not only about policies and rules and regulations. The policies we write can also be used to inspire academic achievement and inspire a higher level of performance in our district. And we're going to talk more about that in a minute. Community leadership. All of you are elected or appointed leaders within your communities. And engaging that community around our public schools has never been more vital, especially when we look at the options of choice, which are beginning to emanate and take a strong foothold in our communities across the country. And finally, board superintendent relationships. This piece has never been more critical in establishing a strong working relationship between boards and superintendents. Now, I'm going to share with you a brief story from the corporate world that translates to the board-CEO relationship. Some of you will remember about 5 or 6 years ago, a big fiasco involving J.P. Morgan Chase, known as the London Whale. Anybody remember that? Major investment fiasco where J.P. Morgan Chase lost billions of dollars. I had an opportunity at a conference to hear from a board member from J.P. Morgan Chase who lived through that fiasco. And it was one of these couch talk conversations where they had a moderator and they had him sitting there. And the board member was Labe Jackson. And in addition to being a talented board member, he also tells it like it is. So the facilitator asked him about Jamie Dimon, their CEO. He said, you know, many people have questioned whether or not the board of J.P. Morgan Chase have done enough with respect to their CEO as a result of losing billions and billions of dollars. And he turned to the moderator and he said, have we done enough? Well, I can't shoot him. He says, the board considered that. Our legal counsel advised us against it. He says, but let me tell you about Jamie Dimon. When it comes to banking CEOs, he is one of the talented, if not the most talented, CEOs in the industry. But like every human being, he has flaws. And then he turned to all of us in the audience, and he said, if there's one thing I wish I knew as a director, as a board member, earlier on in my career, it's this. As a board member, you have 3 jobs. Number 1, get the CEO right. Pick the right superintendent of schools. Number 3, get the next CEO right. Have a succession plan in place. Make sure that you're looking forward as a board so that leadership transitions are seamless. And in between 1 and 3, number 2, figure out what your current CEO's biggest flaws are and how you as a board team can help him or her with them. So I'll leave you with that piece of timeless wisdom from Labe Jackson with regard to the board superintendent relationship. But what I wanted to talk to you really about today is the fact that we are at the foot of a great precipice. Because as we stand here today as school board members, this fall, the kindergartners entering America's public schools will be the high school graduating class of 2030. Think about that for a minute. The year 2030. Now, every great organization has customers, they've got shareholders, they've got personnel. And we are just like every other great organization. And while many organizations see 2030 as being generations away, come this August, for us as school board members, 2030 is here. Let's take a look for a minute and let's see what we have in store for us from the class of 2030. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the high school graduating class of 2030.
What will you be when you grow up?
I'm a police officer.
A police officer?
A police officer.
A police officer. And what does a police officer do?
We give tickets. I'm a firefighter.
A firefighter. What do firefighters do?
Without fires.
¿Qué tú quieres ser cuando tú creces?
Police.
In 2030, what do you think houses will look like?
Decorations. They were pretty, shiny, and beautiful. Cars will look like race cars.
With
With decorations on them.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
A teacher. I want to be a teacher. Eagles football player.
An Eagles football player.
I want to be a shopper and shop for everything I need.
What kind of things do you need?
Like baby bottles and clothes and maybe furniture, maybe like a desk, maybe like books, maybe like a carpet, maybe like some cameras, or maybe like some toys.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are responsible for making sure that she has an income that allows her to afford all that. Good luck with that mission. Now, when you think about it, and your immediate reaction to 2030 is that, my God, 2030 is ages away. But if you think about the class that just graduated, the class of 2017, they were kindergartners in 2004. Now, that wasn't so far away. For some reason, looking back, 2004 seems a lot closer than 2030. So let's take a look at 2004 versus 2017 and where we think 2030 will take us. I was 29 in 2004. I was an officer of a school board association serving on my local school board. You can see I've come a long way. Today I'm 42. Hopefully I'll be 55. Getting old is not really a great thing, except, for those who can't get to do it. Active Facebook users. 1 million Facebook users logged in once a month in 2004. Today, 1.86 billion with a B. Will Facebook still be around? Will there be another platform and a new Mark Zuckerberg who came out of America's public schools? What will that platform look like, and how do we prepare our students to work in that industry? Public school students, this number concerns me. Right now it's gone up from 2004, but where will it be in 2030? Will we as school board members still educate 90%, 9 out of 10 students in America in public schools? Ladies and gentlemen, that's up to us to make sure that it's not 90%, but it's 95% or 100%. Dow Jones Industrial Average, you can see between the S&P and the Dow Jones, basically doubled. But we know that that was not a straight line. We know that there was a dip in there. How do we prepare our students for whatever number that will be in 2030? And what are the demographics of that economy? What jobs will cease to exist and what new jobs will be created? Childhood poverty. We crossed the threshold during the class of 2017's K through 12 education, to the point where now 1 in 5 children live in poverty. What number will that look like? Childhood obesity. It's actually improved a little bit. It's gone down. But I want you to think about this as school board members. We have, and you hear in Congress about all of the debate around the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, Trump Care, everybody wants to own care. When you hear about that debate, at the root of that debate are 2 fundamental facts. In this nation, we have a health care problem and we have a health care cost problem. Have we as school board members looked at the curricula and the program associated with our physical education programs? Have we considered that as school board members, we have the power to alter the course of America's health care by instilling in our children today a lifelong love of fitness? And are those discussions occurring around the board tables around the nation? Our demographics are shifting. Back in 2003, our white population in public schools were close to 60%. By the time 2025 rolls around, our white population will be less than 50%. That will be accompanied by a significant increase in our Hispanic population across the country. Now, when you think back to the video that I just showed you, and you think back to the students, ¿Qué tal el estudiante que no podía hablar una palabra de inglés? Estadísticamente, la clase de 2030 tendrá 350,000 estudiantes que no conocen el idioma inglés. Como miembros de las juntas escolares, ¿cómo nos educamos sobre la eficacia de los programas que ofrecemos a estos estudiantes? Lograrán sus sueños. Will the 350,000 English language learners achieve their dreams? And how do we as school board members, in particularly school board members who perhaps only speak one language, know the effectiveness of our multilingual and our ELL programs across the country? By the way, I only speak un poquito español, so that took a lot of rehearsal. This is a program that we do in our local district. We take fifth graders, and for one meeting a year, we make them local school board members. Our board president, our superintendent, and our teachers train them on the role of a local school board, and they come to a school board meeting, and they actually handle the entire school board agenda. The board members simply sit behind them in order to make the meeting legal so that we can support their vote from a legal standpoint. But what I want you to notice about this slide are the makeup of the children in the front and my local school board in the back. Does the diversity of the student body align with the diversity of the school board? Now, I'm not suggesting for a minute that you go out and lead a campaign to vote your colleagues off the island. That is not good for board morale. However, as individuals retire, are you having discussions about the diversity on your board? And I don't only mean diversity in terms of the cultural diversity that you see in a photo like this. I'm talking about diversity of expertise, diversity of age. I was elected to my local school board at 19. I found out when I came here that that's illegal in Missouri, that I have to be 24. But think about the diversity that a young individual who just came through your school system or just graduated from college would add to your local school board. So I like to refer to this as the Vision 2030 School Board, but the school board of the future, I see a shift occurring between the traditional school board, which acts as an approver, that hires a superintendent with a vision, that votes yes or no and has a binary approach, and has a composition reflective of people to serve, to a visionary board, one that hires the right educational leader, and together as a team figures out where the direction of the district is going. One that focuses on long-term strategy, value creation for the community. One that actually meets with members of the business community and looks at what are the needs of the business community when they go out and hire their next generation of leaders in their workforce. One that meets with colleges and says to colleges, how are our students doing? When we send our students to you, what is their 5-year graduation rate from your institution? And how does that compare to your institution's average? Are we above it? Are we below it? And creates those types of partnerships together with the school board. And transitions from a community of knowers to a community of learners. And what I really enjoyed when I watched board members come up here and receive your various levels of certification is the fact that they were awarded levels of certification because they read books. They read books on education and boardsmanship. They went and visited other school boards. I think those are best practices for a state school board association to have in providing professional development for the next generation of what school boards have the potential to become as leaders of education in this nation. So putting it all together and integrating the Vision 2030 framework, along with our vision, we integrate climate and culture. Do we as board members know the climate in which our districts operate? And by climate, I mean, how do you feel when you walk into a school building? How do our children feel? And is it the climate that we want? I attended the Disney Leadership Institute training about 10 years ago, And they told us at Disney, and Disney is very big on climate and culture, they said every single organization has a climate. They have a culture. There's only two questions. Is it by design or is it by default? As school board leaders, we have the power to bring together our teachers, our community members, our superintendents, and help design a culture and a climate that ensures student success. College and business partnerships, I talked about that piece already. Branding and marketing. All of you in Missouri were successful in beating back the proposals from the legislature. But we don't know, unfortunately, how long we'll be able to sustain that success. Are we as school board members considering marketing plans to market our individual schools and why they are better than the competition? And that's difficult for us. It's difficult for several reasons. It's difficult because, first of all, as school board members, we are humble about what we do. We're very proud of it, but we're not going out there and beating our chests about it. But it's even harder for us as school board members in school districts to market ourselves, because think about today's marketing. You know, years ago, you got that Sears and Roebuck catalog or J.C. Penney catalog with everything under the sun. It was never personalized. It was the same for everybody. But now you go on Amazon.com, and it knows that I'm horrible at golf. You'd be surprised the gadgets it tries to sell me, because it knows I'm trying to learn how to be better at golf. But we need now, as school board members, to build a marketing plan to market our schools to you as a parent, which is different than the needs of you as a parent, which is different than the needs of you as a parent. And what is the strategic asset that stands behind public schools? What makes them great? We serve all. So how do you take a model that's designed to serve all and lift a nation and secure its national security and translate that to a model that not only serves all, but also meets the demands of what individual parents want for their children? Enterprise risk management under policy. I want to talk about this just briefly because it's a very complex subject. Ladies and gentlemen, we deal with significant information. Social Security numbers of staff, kids, medical information, HIV status, educational information, learning disability information. Depending on our cafeteria programs, we may have credit card information. Are all of you confident that data is secure? Have you had discussions about risk management around your board tables? Because there's only two types of districts in this room tonight. Those that have been hacked and those that have not yet been hacked. If you're not having those conversations, start thinking about enterprise risk as a topic, not only from a data standpoint, but from a reputational risk standpoint. Some of you may know my district. 2.5 years ago, we canceled our football program because of criminal sexual assault within the team. That was a huge reputational risk issue. It was a huge human issue. What none of us realized until about 3 weeks into the crisis was that we had crisis management insurance that paid for a PR firm to come in and handle that. Had we known about that, I wouldn't have been on Good Morning America, because we would have had the PR firm handle that. So look at your insurance, take up risk as a topic for your local school boards. And resource allocation for student achievement, look at where your students have the biggest opportunities for growth. And let's make sure that we're applying resources into those areas. This slide just basically summarizes this information, and I've sent the slides to Melissa, so you'll be able to access them. If they're not online yet, they will be. So NSBA, we are the Missouri School Boards Association's Washington office. We are the 50 State School Board Association's Washington office. We handle federal advocacy at a national level for you and for your state school board association. Some of the issues that we're facing, I already hit on it. School choice. $1 billion is being allocated specifically for school choice proposals in the latest Trump budget. Now, the good news about that, and this actually hits into both items at the top with regard to the Trump budget, both the $1 billion for school choice as well as the $9.2 billion worth of cuts across the board to education. The good news about that is we are hearing concern as NSBA on both sides of the aisle in Congress about the Trump budget and what it means for public education. So the fact that we're hearing concerns from both sides of the aisle make us confident that these proposals will not be adopted in whole. That doesn't by any means stop the need for us to be vigilant and for us to be aggressive. So what I'm asking all of you to do, since you've been so successful in Missouri, is now to take that level up one notch and turn it to the federal level and start contacting your elected congressional representatives and letting them know that any cut to education is a threat to the security and national security of our nation's future. That message needs to get across. You can also go to www.nasbac.org, NSBAC. That is our 501c4 arm. That organization is basically a separate organization that was founded by NSBA that allows us to not only engage board members, but engage the public. There's a spot on there to sign up as a friend of public education. Sign up and join us. Not only you as school board members, share that information with your communities. Have them sign on. Because it's one thing for congressional members to hear from local school board members. It's another to start hearing from parents. And with 90% of the students in this country educated in public schools, that's a lot of parents and a lot of votes that our elected members need to be aware of, support public education. Career and technical education. There's legislation that's currently sponsored to continue the investment or strengthen the investment in career and technical education. The challenge we have with that is the Trump budget also provides cuts to career and technical education. So we're dealing with that battle on both fronts. And again, all of this information is covered on the NASBAC website, as well as ways that you can take action. Finally, legal advocacy. We also file amicus briefs with the Supreme Court, and a lot of these amicus briefs are dealing with court cases that are before the Supreme Court. Some deal with education, some deal with human rights issues such as the transgender issue, and some deal with our collective status in America as the largest employer. Yes, school board members collectively are the largest employer in America. So there's many personnel issues that come before the Supreme Court that we weigh in on behalf of school board members, because even though they don't deal directly with a school board, depending on how they're decided, will have personnel implications for school boards across the country. The Center for Public Education. If you're going to meet with your congressman, if you're looking to implement a new initiative in your district, the Center for Public Education.org is a website from NSBA that has a ton of resources on every aspect of public education. It is factual, it's data-driven, it only has one bias. It is pro-public education. But all of the facts and information that are in there are real and are tools for you as school board members to use. So I encourage you to check out the Center for Public Education.org. American School Board Journal is our flagship publication. It's our magazine. It's the oldest magazine on education topics in the country. You can subscribe to it individually as a board or as board members. You can also get it as a benefit of membership through your state association, through our National Connection program, or by joining our CUBE program, which is our Council of Urban Boards of Education. So if you're part of an urban board, we have a whole select cadre of resources available to specifically meet the needs of urban boards of education. And you can sign on through CUBE and get the magazine as part of your membership. This is one of the things that I'm very proud of, although as I'm traveling now to New Mexico and I'm traveling here now to Missouri, I think Tom Gensel is stealing this idea and the next wave for this particular campaign from many of our state associations. because I was thrilled with the Stand Up for Missouri Public Schools campaign that I saw, the video that I saw earlier, and the fact that Melissa says that she's got all of those stories all captured together along with the commentary behind them. So let's take a look at why public education in the United States never ever is an ordinary day.
Wait, what was the question again?
Should I move up a little?
No.
Okay.
Can I think for just a sec?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, every day is really, really different.
Every day we learn something new.
And every day sometimes you make a new friend. The most amazing thing I've ever done at school, we get to dissect an owl pellet, is read a chapter book.
This was like a quadruple step equation because it had 2 double step equations.
One day in gym class I hit a home run.
Yes, I did it!
I was jumping up and down just like I ate 1,000 Skittles.
When one student comes in and says, I can't, it's our job to prove that they can.
I think something extraordinary happens every day in public schools just by its mere existence.
There's always something to look forward to, something special going on.
The challenges, the cooperations, the teamwork.
Really, it's the foundation to everything anybody wants to do.
Try new things, expand your comfort zone, and do things you would never otherwise imagine doing.
Every day, my education makes a difference in my life.
The video was completely unrehearsed. Everything that was there was authentic as is. And I agree, something extraordinary happens in public schools every day simply by their mere existence. Now here's what we need you to do. We need you to go to this website, and we need stories about why public education in Missouri is succeeding. Send us your stories so that we can publish them and take that story nationwide. By no means, please, if you're going to send it to us, also send it to the Missouri School Boards Association. This is a war that we're fighting on all fronts. So we've got to take these stories, not only state and local, but we've got to take them national as well. Our annual conference is held in San Antonio this year in April. For those of you who have not had the opportunity to attend an annual conference, I encourage you to come out. It's our first time in San Antonio, if not in a long time, if maybe ever. But the annual conference brings together 5,000 school board members from across the country. And if you've never had that experience, it's a great opportunity to learn from fellow school board members who are from very different ends of the country, very different communities, and operate under very different state laws, to understand the challenges that they're facing and what may be coming to you really, really soon. Advocacy Institute. And given the success you had in Missouri, I encourage your participation at our Advocacy Institute, which is held in Washington, D.C. in February. We will train you on the issues. It basically starts on a Sunday. For those of you who have a diverse student population, if you're interested in equity, we have a conference preceding this on Saturday called our Equity Symposium. But this conference starts on Sunday. We'll train you on all the federal issues. And on Tuesday, you'll actually go to the Hill, meet with your congressman, and lobby on behalf of not only Missouri's public school students, but America's public school students. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, I encourage you as I take this tremendous journey, if you're on Twitter, follow me on Twitter so that I can continue to share the best practices that I see as I travel the country. If you're not on Twitter, get on Twitter. It's a phenomenal medium for us to be able as board members to get the message out about why public education in our schools is working. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, I extend to you my heartfelt thanks as a local school board member for all that you do for your children in your districts. I know the board meetings are tough. You have to deal with a community that oftentimes doesn't understand your role, doesn't understand the limitations that you may have as a school board member. I know that shopping in your local communities is difficult. I once went out I once went out Thanksgiving Eve at 10:30 at night thinking, who am I possibly going to run into in the local supermarket? My superintendent in produce, my mayor in frozen foods. So I found the time in which all of us shop. I know that the job is difficult, but please don't ever take for granted the impact that you as school board members have on the students in your district and how much it matters to them and how all of you are responsible for securing the future of our nation for 2030 and beyond. Thank you very much for having me. I'll be around for questions throughout the remainder of the conference.